Hi there, it's John from Commercial Real Estate Online. Welcome to the program. This is another video for my friends around the world in commercial, industrial and retail property. So welcome. The website to contact us is commercial-realestate-training.com. Now, a few weeks ago, I put up a short video on the channel to share regards shopping centre analysis and performance. So today I'm going to go further into that so that we'll take you through the many different issues in shopping centre analysis from a leasing, a sale perspective and also property management, depending on what you do. I've had a lot to do with shopping centres over the years, and indeed I like them as a property class, as an investment class. But I always say to many people, shopping centres are very complex. You have to understand the tenancy mix, the property, the economy, all of the various issues at play in a shopping centre. And that's what this particular chart will help you with. So let's go through this. I'll get as far as I can today. And then, of course, I'll have other videos coming up which follow on from it. There's about 175 different issues in this chart. So many. I can't do all of them in one video, but I can certainly take you into the first and second group as part of today's program. So let's have a look at it. Let's go through these issues. And you can build your chart from what I'm explaining to you now. And please do that, because I would like to help you understand shopping centres and what you can do within shopping centre sales and leasing and or property management, whatever you're good at. I happen to know retail shopping centres very well, and that's why I use this chart. It's a very professional way to engage with clients about their property intentions, maybe their property or maybe the asset as it exists today. So let's go further and have a look at it. So major shopping centre performance. This isn't just a group of a few shops and an anchor tenant. This is probably two or more anchor tenants plus a group of shops around that. So if you have two anchor tenants, you've probably got 15 to 25 to 30 shops, specialty shops. That's why you need a chart like this to help you through. So going further with that, the tenants side of things I did go through in the last video, but I'll briefly cover it now before I move into the next topic. So when I'm looking at a retail shopping centre, I will always start with the tenancy types to understand what they are so that I can assess whether the tenants are truly viable for what they are in this changing retail environment. Of course, today you'll find that things do change a lot in retail, so your tenancy mix has to adjust for that vibrancy, that type of retail change. The permitted use will be the use that is allowed within the shop based on the tenant and their lease. So I always look at firstly the tenant types, but then the permitted uses to make sure that the tenants are using the premises the way they are authorised to do so. Then I'll look at the clustering of tenants. Now the clustering will be 2, 3, 4, 5 tenants in one group. I look at that because there is some vibrancy in a cluster of tenants, and you can get a lot of trade bouncing from one to the other quite successfully if you do it right. Now certainly it works in food courts, no doubt about that, but it also works in sporting goods and fashion, that sort of thing. Different types of tenants go well together if you think about it, and that's where the clustering of tenants can help. I then look at the tenant meetings that have been going on. I don't like to get involved with a shopping centre where there's no history of tenant meetings and tenant feedback and landlord connection with tenants. Because if a landlord doesn't connect with the tenants and or the property manager, then things start to go wrong. And that's not what you want. Lease and occupancy management. So when you know about the tenants, which was earlier in the video there, when you know about the tenants, you can then look at the leases to understand that the leases are correct, the tenants are in the right spot, the leases, the licenses, the casual tenants, the monthlies are all there. That's why you look at the property physically and then go down into the lease and occupancy management. Now, to assess a property for the future, I will always look at the next 2 years. So that will involve the tenants that are in the property now and any vacancies or the threat of vacancies soon. Then I look at the expiry profiles over the next couple of years. because the next 2 years is something I can always shape. I can do some lease negotiations, repositioning, relocating, expansion, contraction. I can do all of that. So I become a strategist within shopping centre performance, and I would encourage you to think that way. What do I do there? I actually put the expiry dates and the commencement dates into a spreadsheet so I can graph the changes in tenancies and leases over the next couple of years. When I do that, I've got a visual approach of what I've got to do. Of course, I'll put in the current rents. I'll assess the current rents as to whether they are in tune with market, all of that sort of thing. So, as part of that other consideration, it's the relocations and renovations that are needed in the property. And of course, when you do that, you've got to move tenants around. So that then becomes a lease consideration. When does the lease expire? Is there an option? How do you do that? What are the market rents? What rents are being paid now? What will happen to the rents when the relocation or renovation has occurred? Again, a strategy issue. So now, landlord issues. So the landlord is, of course, quite important. And if you're working as an agent with a landlord or for the landlord, there are certain things to come to grips with when it comes to the landlord particularly. Because the landlord has a focus. Sure, you might know you've got to collect the rent or lease the premises or look at the vacancies, whatever you've got to do. But you have to understand the landlord. Because you could do the wrong thing and not fully understand what the landlord wants of you with regards to that property. So the first thing to focus on is the reporting strategies. So what does the landlord want to know? When do they need to know it? In what form do they require of that? So when you think about reporting with the larger shopping centres, I would be reporting as a leasing specialist to the landlord at the end of each week in written form. During the week, I would report to the landlord verbally on updates as they go through, particularly lease inquiries, that sort of thing. So the reporting strategies also go into these other issues: rent reviews, options, lease negotiations, vacancy reports, maintenance activity, renovations and relocations, market rents, competing properties and the impact that they have on your tenancy mix. And I haven't just stopped at that. There's many different things you can go into. So the reporting strategies are geared to the landlord, the property, the market. Market conditions is probably another thing to report about. Most of the reporting strategies would come at month end, certainly quarterly in a major way, and annually in a business plan way. But let's go back to the end of a week. What would I be talking about? Leasing activities, inquiries, tenancy meetings, renovation and relocation requirements, market rents, changes with competing properties trying to take my tenants, that sort of thing. So that's reporting strategies. You can do that in a standard form, of course, put it into a Word document and then create the headings around that. Now, the landlord will have certain investment requirements. Typically, they will need their net income payment by a certain time of each month. What is that? Because they've got mortgage money to pay. But inside of that, the landlord will have investment requirements, return on investment. What is the net return they need each month to get through with their cash flow? That's why you need a budget when it comes to shopping centre performance. A budget relates to income, gross income, expenditure, net income, comparables to market rents. So the investment requirements are many. And I would always say that a shopping centre should have a business plan for a period of a whole year, and that should be set 3 months before the new year starts. So the investment requirements for a landlord are unique and different. Get to know what those things are. So the fund and the income requirements. So the fund will be the funds that are coming from the property as an income base for the landlord. Now, if you're dealing with investment funds, trusts, that sort of thing, and I have done that for many, many years, the fund understands certain cash flow pressures, but they also understand they have certain cash flow pressures and requirements. So you've got to know what they are. When do they need the money? How are they going to budget for the dips and troughs in net income? Because through the year, you'll have big issues of expenditure, such as rates and taxes, energy, insurance, coming in and taking big chunks of money out of the property. So you've got to know how you're going to balance that. And if you're a leasing or a property management specialist, that information will help you get somewhere or control matters for the landlord. Now, lease and tenant guidelines. It's a simple subject, but there's many things in there. Every shopping centre should have a standard lease, which is constructed around the investment requirements of the landlord. So every time you are about to do a lease, you've got a standard lease. You know how it works. You know the rental types, the market rents, the rent review strategies, the options, whether you want any. You also know the outgoings categories to be recovered and how that is done. You know the budgets of the property. So any lease deal you do is well known as to how it will fit into the cash flow for the property, the budget for the property, and the lease and tenant guidelines. Now, within tenant guidelines, you should think about, well, what are the shopfront requirements? What are the fit-out requirements? What about plan approvals and drawings? That's like tenant guidelines. That's what you've got to appreciate and have under control before you find the tenant for the space. Now, communication systems to the landlord. That is, how are you going to go to the landlord regularly and tell them what's going on? Typically, my plan was always weekly on standard things, daily on specific urgent things, daily on inspection results from property vacancy inspections or lease inquiries. Documentation and risk factors were always advised immediately. Everything is in email form to back up any conversation. So if you have a conversation with the landlord, you simply must, document it back to the landlord within the first half an hour after the conversation is finished to say something like this: Mr. Landlord, thank you for your conversation this morning at 10 a.m. The elements of the conversation were these, and the decisions made were as follows relative to the discussions. That's the email that supports what was decided. So communication systems, weekly, daily if required, certainly monthly, certainly quarterly, that's a budget report, status report to actuals, and then also annually as a business plan and a results to the business plan. So it doesn't matter what you do with a landlord. Respect their high value investment and the services that you bring to them in leasing, selling, tenant upgrades, tenancy mix changes. Maybe it's property management things as well. All of that leads me to this, the asset plan. So the asset plan takes into account all of the things I've mentioned, and you should put them in your asset plan. And that is the asset plan that's created at the beginning of any financial year. And it covers the income actuals, the income budget, expenditure actuals, the expenditure budget, the incentives to be applied to any leasing situation, a vacancy report, a vacancy lease strategy, the tenancy mix report, relocations and renovations that are to occur, maybe some renovation changes to the property itself, as in capital expenditure upgrades. The asset plan is very comprehensive. It also takes into account the larger items of capital expenditure in the essential plant and equipment in the asset. And then, of course, any risk issues. Risk issues relate to just about anything in the shopping centre that can create financial or physical risk. And you have to identify those in the asset plan and stay on top of those. So that is the end of that particular topic. And in the next topic, I'll be going to customers and take you down into that topic further. So this matrix, as I said, there's 174 or 5 different things in this matrix. And you should subscribe while you're here to this video stream so that you get the next set of slides that come out and the videos that help. Because shopping centres, as a sale, leasing, or property management perspective of our industry, it's a very special part of our industry. There's so much we can do, so much. Landlords don't have the time. They might understand their shopping centre, but they don't have the time to do everything that's required. The bigger the shopping centre, the more professionals the landlord needs around them. Experienced professionals in leasing, engineering, tenancy mix works, tenant communications, lease administration, marketing of the property. I've said just a few, but you can see where this goes and how it works. As a final note, of course, I should say that in managing leasing a shopping centre, don't skimp on fees because there's a lot of work to do. And a professional landlord of experience with shopping centres will understand that they need the best people to do the comprehensive job, keep the property under control and get everything to an end result at the end of the financial year, which satisfies the financiers, the landlord especially, the tenants, the customers, everybody as stakeholders to the property. Anyway, that's it for today. I'm going to put this video on the website, which is commercial-realestate-training.com. And also subscribe to our YouTube channel while you're here as well, so you get all of the other items that I'll be sharing in this particular series. Thanks for listening. It's been a 16-minute video, so there's quite a lot to talk about. And the whole series is going to take me through maybe 2 or 3 hours. So make sure you subscribe to get all of these issues so you can build your matrix from my experience. Enjoy the next video. Enjoy the day. I'll catch you soon.